I'm dreaming of a disorganized play. I'm dreaming of talking about D&D today. I'm dreaming of this song will never end. I'm screaming in the ear of my friend.
You asked for metal, Bing Crosby.
Freaked out Harold.
I gave it to you. Whether you liked it or not is your problem, not mine.
Oh, my
Hey,
goodness.
everyone. It's Dom's problem. Is what it is. He's the one who's deaf and covered in my saliva. Good afternoon. Welcome to Disorganized Play. I am your host and dungeon master, Tom Lommel. I'm glad to see you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a great crowd of regulars and new people. So there we go. I'm joined, as I am most weeks, by my lovely co-host and tolerant producer, Mr. Dom Zook, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to the show. So, for those of you who are not familiar, this is not really a GM prep show in the conventional sense of the word, in terms of if you've watched other GM prep shows, it's like, and then we'll put a demonic octopus in there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I got a great idea. What do you know? That's not my show. I like to talk about the issues that I am confronting in the game, whether it is a rules issue or more often it's a story issue, like how are we going to like address this next plot point or whatever. I also, along the way, give out DM advice and whatnot. So if you have a question, flip it out in the chat. But it's much more about structuring and restructuring your story and giving you the tools, and also like my thoughts in terms of like, here's what I would like to happen at the table. I talk about that on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays, we actually run a game of D&D right here on Saving Throw Show. Mm-hmm. It's not our only game of D&D. On Saturdays, you can also watch the Broken Pact, which is our D&D Ravnica crossover show over on Wizards Channel. But Wednesday, I'm right now currently running a game of When a Star Falls, the UK4 module. And then we come back the next week and talk about, well, did I actually execute what I wanted to execute? How did things change at the table? The players did something different, or they didn't get as much accomplished as I was hoping to get accomplished, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is much more about plot structure and ways to approach it, and also just sort of like my reflection on, here's what I wanted to do.
Right.
Did it work? And if not, what could I do differently? What would I recommend in hindsight doing? Or if it did work, like, why did it work well? Like, why was I proud of that? What happened there? Or what move got pulled that I didn't expect? Right. So that's the format of the show. We also talk about other tabletop things kind of that are in the wind, so to speak, as we're both longtime fans and players of the games. Not just game, games.
Yeah. The games.
The games.
The games
that are arrayed around it. That's the whole reason we have this channel. So that's what the show is about. Hey, welcome everybody. Yeah, Bing Crosby in any style is good. Yeah. I think I proved that wrong.
No, let's not dictate what they like and don't like.
No, I know what I don't like, and it's what I just did, but I don't have a control over that.
Eruvana might like this.
Okay.
I have a couple things right at the top that I want to hit real quick. Today is the last day to enter our Pugmire giveaway. Today is the last episode of Pugmire Homeward Bound.
This evening starts at 6 o'clock, 4 short hours from now.
Yeah.
DJ DM Havana Mahoney in the, I don't know. It's not. I can't say driver's seat because
they're called a
dogs.
guide. They're called a guide in Pugmire. So how do you
DJ Havana Mahoney as the veterinarian for this group of pugs and a Vizsla.
There's a Vizsla, a Corgi, a Shih Tzu, and a Doberman.
There's going to be a guest tonight, right?
There is a guest tonight, yes, because Amy's out.
Is out of town.
Twitch superstar Nega Oryx is joining us, and we'll be playing a kitty cat. So how will that work?
That's the pose you have to do when somebody says you're a Twitch superstar.
Oh, okay. I didn't say you were a Twitch superstar. Anyway, today is the last day.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's just my ego. Okay.
Exclamation point giveaway. We'll get you the link.
I have a cool hat and T-shirt. Exclamation point giveaway. It's the last day.
DJ Regular hit it up. So go ahead, get in there. You could win a as it says, a core rule book.
We have it. We have the things here.
Check it out. You get a core rule book. It's very nice. If you've played D&D, you can easily pick up Pugmire. It's very, very similar. There's a whole GM screen with a bunch of little handy things like GM screens have and great art. It's a really fun game, and I hope you can check it out tonight. Thank you for the sub.
Awesome.
The other thing is, and if you want to give a reroll, let me know about rerolls. Chat is not showing who subbed anymore. I don't know what's up with chat these days, but it's not showing donations or subs or anything anymore, so I can't see that far away what it is. But anyway, thank you very much for the sub, and let me know if you've got a reroll. The other thing is go out and vote.
Go vote. You can start voting. Early voting has begun most places.
Yeah, lots of places. So don't get bogged down. Don't forget mail-in ballots. That's what I did. And there's early voting in.
So I know some places. So for instance, in thank you, Estelle Castillo, for the reroll. Here in California, you have 1 week. Yeah, 1 week from today to submit online your your application to vote by mail. You have 1 week to get that in. I know that in Minnesota, if you decide to request your ballot and then vote by mail, once it's submitted and the state receives it, and it's like a trackable process the whole way, the political parties have to take you off of their rolls to make phone calls. So here in California, it's not such a big deal, but I know in some of the battleground states, and Minnesota is one of them, I know because I did phone banking here, volunteered for a campaign, and the commercials are kind of out of hand already, but getting called at home is obviously, annoying. Important but annoying, but you can solve that problem very concisely, very, very, very definitively by casting an early vote. So we recommend that you. Yeah. It's not just enough for you to vote. I want you to go and get 2 friends who don't normally vote and go vote, because this is a very important election. It is going to be a referendum on our health care. It's already been a referendum on net neutrality. So if you don't like the way that that's gone, you can put some checks and balances on the FCC.
If nothing else, net neutrality has such a huge impact, whether you're a conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, whatever. If you like this show and you like this channel, net neutrality helps us stay around, because it will limit you and your ability to watch stuff like Twitch and YouTube and Netflix and where you go and how you buy things on the internet and all that sort of stuff. So it directly impacts us and how we do what we do. So it is very important to go out and vote. If you're a U.S. citizen right now, if you're a citizen in other countries that have a democratic process like that, please go vote there too.
Go vote.
But anyway, enough of that.
That's our top of the show.
Yeah.
And I will just say that if I seem kind of rowdy or grumpy or out of it or whatever, it's because this election is incredibly stressing me out, and I want you to go take and participate in our democracy, because it's important to me.
Yeah.
I've given a lot of money and a lot of my time to try and make my voice heard. So unfortunately, anyway, that's
another show.
That's a whole nother show. That's not why we're here today. But it affects me personally. It affects Dom personally. Mm-hmm. Regardless of how you vote, it's going to affect people.
Yep.
So keep that in mind.
Yep.
That's as much as I'm going to say about that right now.
For now.
Right now.
We'll do more at our voting show.
Sure.
That we have.
I'm not opposed to doing the voting show. I'll be happy to do a special get out the vote D&D
Save
show,
the
something.
vote.
Yeah, save the vote.
All
All right, so what are we going to talk about today? That is actually on the agenda, right?
Yes.
Oh boy, everything got really tiny over there. So we're going to recap last week's episode. Yes, my other show is called Disorganized Electoral Process. All right, Bondo has a quick question that I'll address right now. Will my game at GameholeCon have pre-gens, or do I need to make a level 3 tune? I will bring pre-gens and take care of that for you. Don't worry. I don't expect everybody to bring a level 3 character to the game.
You can just play my character.
If you have one, I will be happy to take a look at it and see what, make sure that it fits in with the rest of the game. But I'm planning to bring, 6 or 7 pre-gens so that people at the table have something to pick from and can play, and we don't have to sit around and stare at each other for 25 minutes while
Right.
Well, let's see now. Should I be, what kind of sorcerer should I be? Should I be a dragon sorcerer, or should I be a wild sorcerer?
Oh, and it's not a con experience if you're not doing that, though.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yes, we will all be at GameholeCon November 6th. That's, November 6th is when we're voting. November 8th is when GameholeCon starts.
Yeah.
Literally 2 days later. So we will be there in a little over 2 weeks. 16
We can
days.
chat more about voting then.
Well, at that point, we'll have something to
see
say
what
one way or the other, right? As Nullzone42 points out, the correct answer is always Wild Sorcerer, especially my game. Come on. I will make the special table for you to do a Wild Surge, and it will be much better than what's in the book. All right, so we're going to talk about last week's episode. There were some big things that happened. We're not going to cover, you can go back and watch it, so we're not going to cover it in detail, but we're going to talk about a recap. We're going to use another update to my plot radar tool that helps me structure and structure the storylines of my ongoing campaign and keep track of what elements are in play and what elements I kind of want to kick to the side or ignore or submerge, whatever you want to call it, and what elements the players are really aware of that I can't ignore or submerge without some devious DM debauchery.
Chicanery.
I was going for, what is it, alliteration? Devious DM debauchery. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this book that I literally picked up from my FLGS. This is not a comp copy that somebody sent me. This is, I paid my own hard-earned cash. I don't know if it's hard-earned cash, but I paid my own cash for this Art and Arcana book that just came out. It's at your FLGS today. I don't know when it's coming out.
But
through
Wizards,
Amazon.
if you want to send us one,
if you want to send us one,
take one
Dom will take one to just drool over a little bit.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I got a brief look at it during the stream of many eyes, and there were some things in there that were embargoed that I was not. They're like, don't flip through it and take pictures. I'm like, okay. So today, because it's out, we're going to flip through it a little bit and look at pretty pictures. And then finally, we've got a Kickstarter roundup. We've got a lot of different things on the Kickstarter front to talk about. It seems like Kickstarter season is kind of back in full bloom. Yes, this is not a messing around art book. It feels really good.
Yeah.
It feels really good, you guys.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you all, but it feels like a solid investment for your $50. So yeah, you would think it was a Cobalt Press book, indeed. So that's what we've got on the agenda. Let's get to it. So. Recap of last session. Some highlights that I thought are worth covering. What happened last session? So they met, war went. Yeah, a lot happened. I keep gravitating towards the end of the session because it was such a big reveal.
Right.
But the duel was interesting. The role-playing intrigue with Havana's character and the various people in the keep, I thought was interesting. Her kind of negotiations and whatnot to try and get a potion of flying that turned out better than she imagined. But yeah, the duel, I learned my lesson. So Alton Newberry was like, I'm going to duel one of my legendary swordsman rivals, a guy named Creighton Sark, who's in the warden of the Iron Keep. And I thought about going hard right out of the gate and using my action surge and using all my rerolls and really kind of trying to punish him. And I decided I'm going to save that for round 2. And there wasn't a round 2. So
because he did the exact
lesson
same thing.
learned. He came hard out of the paint and and did the 30 points of damage more than he did like 50 points of damage or something like that.
It was crazy.
Now some of that is because like they stacked like 9 rerolls on him, and I think I don't know about this season anymore, but going forward, I'm going to have to put some sort of regulator on rerolls because it's too much, right? Like if you want to make a roll, as long as you've got 5 rerolls, you're going to make that roll.
Right.
You know, I've seen rarely I've seen them burn 4 and miss, but it seems like once you cross over 4, I could see that like the logical thing would be you can use 1 reroll. It's a little restrictive. You still have a lot of rerolls at the table. You could say, all right, we'll limit it at 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, like you can't reroll anymore, which is fine. Like we put some constraints around that stuff before. So that's one of the reasons that he was able to make that fight be a 1-rounder. On the other hand, it's also so I think in terms of like a dramatic moment, I would have liked to have seen Alton's character at least get nicked or threatened a little bit, kind of like shown up that you're not all that.
Right.
On the other hand, and for the purposes of an audience watching our show, I think it would have benefited from going another round or 2. But in terms of a role-playing moment or a character development moment, it was very on brand for Alton to just pants the guy like 1 round. It's over. He's humiliated. That's it. And I will say I was sort of proud of not necessarily that moment of the duel. I was sort of disappointed with not being able to do more when I clearly had more in reserve.
Sure.
But I was proud of the other NPCs then piling on and making the moment more.
Yeah.
You know, where the Orcris and Balvalor Greywind are like, oh, aren't you going to... Like, I like the fact that the NPCs all kind of like pick on each other. Like, there were relationships going on there. They're not just like, we're all in the castle and we're all happy together.
Right.
Like, that was not something that was put on the table. There was definitely interesting dynamics at play in the within the various players of the Iron Keep, right? So I liked that got heightened by, you know, the 2 really kind of like, I think Orcris and Balvalor are classic elves in the sense that they're so full of themselves.
Sure. Yeah.
And so just like snide, like just quietly snide. So yeah. So that's that. Yeah, you're right that DJ Regular, that kind of hubris definitely was sort of the theme of the episode in a lot of different ways. I loved the reveal of that chat unlocked of Havana being able to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great. That turned into like, it turned exactly into the mirror moment that we had set up in the very beginning of this season's arc, where she had a vision that she was standing on a mountain and she was like gliding down over the clouds or whatever. Like, it literally turned into that moment, right? So like, I'm proud that whether the players realized that or not, I'm proud that we managed to like come around to that moment. And she certainly did not see it coming, that it was going to be like a full-on transformation, permanent thing.
Yeah.
And you know, she seemed genuinely touched by that character change, right? It was one of those like there was definitely like an emotional component to that moment, which I was really proud of. And then I think finally, I was surprised and proud of the deal that Vitha and Shrouds came and offered to the party at the end, right? So chat unlocked an entry that simply read, "The party will learn a game-changing secret." And in the very first episode, again, a callback, we had put something in the chat ladder that said the party will have access to an artifact. And I think it was pretty easy to kind of like brush that off as the black cube. Like, oh, they could have kept the black cube and tried to learn how to manipulate it. Like, they were offered that that power or that capability, and they turned it down. And so I think it was easy to go, well, that's what that was, and they passed on it, so that's fine. But I had built into, once that got unlocked in session 0, I had built into each of they each got a signature item as well, right? So I built in that each of their signature items had some wooden component that was made of black walnut. Now, if they had ever compared what their various signature items were, they would have realized that that's when all of the, that they all of their signature items have this same, they're all made of the same wood, which might have kind of like,
I'm a little surprised, honestly, that they didn't go like, oh, what did you get? None of them, they all got their little sheets of paper, and they were just like,
okay, cool.
I'll put that to the side.
I feel like because it was a signature item, it was something where they wanted to brag about its powers, but they didn't feel like they needed to talk about what it was.
Right.
And that's fine. As Estelle Castillo points out, the game-changing secret is we're playing the Rod of 7 Parts, not one of Starfalls. That would be amazing to me, to be secretly like leading them on an adventure when telling them that this is what it is. That would be. That's like I wish I was that devious.
It's like our Loot Crate video when you tell Garav that we've been playing Rifts this whole time.
So here's what I thought was going to happen. I thought Vitha was going to show up and make these offers that, as Havana tuned in, like, this is very clearly something shady about this whole offer. And that the party would start turning them down. Vitha is this very like amorphous, not amorphous, but indeterminate, like we don't even know what kind of being it is, right? So I thought they would turn Vitha down, and then they would go like, well, why would this weird magister character that maybe is undead, maybe not, like might be a lich or something, why would they want my rolling pin and your spear and your boken and your scroll thing? And then they would go, well, I don't know, it's just this, rolling pin that has this marble roller on a rod of black walnut. Wait, what? I thought that's how it would roll out. I think partly because it was the end of the session, and I know that Kyle was operating on less than enough sleep.
Right, yeah.
I think he just got a little punchy and was like, oh yeah, you're going to give me magic claws? Take it. I don't, we've never used it. It's never come in handy. I don't care. Have it.
Yeah.
And Amy, of course, has been so intensely interested in getting a fairy for her character. And I think she knew that, next week I'm going to be out, so I can't earn my fairy that week. Like, if we're playing Let's Make a Wish, then yes, I'm going to make a wish. I think there's also kind of that meta element of they realized something big had been unlocked with chat, and I think maybe they thought, oh, we get free gifts.
Yeah, let's play with this.
Let's take it. So in the end, then, Havana is the lone holdout and says, no, I'm not going to take it. And Vitha in Shrouds goes, okay, well, thanks. Crack, crack, crack. Yep. And then assembles 3 parts of the Rod of 7 Parts and disappears. I thought that was a delicious reveal. It's something that I've been sitting on all season, all of this back half of the season since session 1, right? And it always had the possibility of somehow coming up if they had ever just talked about the description of their items. The closest they ever got was, what's a boken? What does that mean? They never really thought about it. And so who knows? I mean, that gives us some places to go. I don't really particularly feel obliged to wrapping up oh, the Rod of 7 Parts is now going to be the campaign ender for this thing. I don't feel like that's necessarily important. But it certainly is going to be something that we have to address a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised, too, that Amy traded her staff. But, you know, again, it was after 11 o'clock. It's the end of the session. Once the ball starts rolling, I was like, I don't know, who cares? Like, honestly, like, the season's going to end in 2 weeks. You know, how bad could it be? Ultimately, I mean, they don't really know what they were out, right?
Right.
They just know that Havana's still got one piece of it left, so thank God. So that's that. All right. Was there anything that you wanted to like highlight from last session that stood out to you?
No, I mean that's pretty much it. I think just a lot of the reveals of the Iron Keep, like Estelle was saying, going back to just tying it back into the original Iron Keep and stuff. That's something I've been wanting to see from season 1 of Iron Keep Chronicles. But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that we kind of see how it all started and stuff like that. And the War Went Through line kind of ties in with Expedition and all the other stuff that we've done. So it all kind of comes back, and I thought that was cool.
I talked about this last week about how I don't think like the Iron Keep, like I've put a ton of like so far the Iron Keep Chronicles has been a show that's been obtusely or indirectly about the Iron Keep.
Right.
And I'm actually kind of okay with that, right? Like it would be nice if at some point like that was their home base or something like for the party, and it would make more sense. But I kind of like just sort of sketching the details. It's been the giant, like it's the Schrodinger's title, right? It's like, that's the title. What do we know about it? It's iron, it's a keep on top of a mountain. And then we gradually kind of fill in a few more details and fill in a few more details. And I feel like this episode, we finally got around to like, okay, I have an understanding of kind of what it's about. But there's still plenty of room to go there. And I think that's okay for the way that we're playing in terms of like we're going to play specific adventures, right? Because there's not right now an Iron Keep adventure, and I wanted to try and cut down my prep time by playing something that was pre-published rather than writing an Iron Keep adventure, which felt daunting to me. So given that that's from a DM's standpoint how I wanted to proceed, so we've incorporated Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, Tales, a bunch of the Tales from the Yawning Portal, a Waterdeep one-off, and now When a Star Falls, all into the Iron Keep Chronicles.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm glad that we've I feel like I have dropped enough details in the pond that when they kind of started to wade into the water, I kind of knew what they were going to congeal as, right? And even though I don't necessarily have a lot of fixed answers to what the Iron Keep is all about, like you said, the threads started to come together in ways that you went, I think we'll also see it more in this next episode, right? I mean, Vitha has disappeared. There's a lot going on at the location now, so I think it's going to be tricky to pick it up next episode, and it's just going to be tricky to pick it up next episode because we ended on such a big note. Right. Speaking, go ahead.
Sorry, the other thing was Ailerod, and bringing Ailerod in.
Yeah, right.
And connecting it to the Waterdeep adventure, but also Ailerod just as a character and how it's almost like characters went back in time and changed history. It is
a little bit like that. Like I really I find this running the prelude thing really satisfying in terms of we've seen the Iron Keep and events of the party before 1,500 years in the future, and now we go back and you can see you can see the direct roots of what's happened. And I love the idea of Ailerod was this old, like, super powerful wizard who's trapped between timelines, or is, sort of ejected out of time. And now we go back 1,500 years and see him as this young apprentice who's a little bit kind of a stooge. I don't want to say he's a stooge, but he's a little naive. Yeah. He's not particularly accomplished necessarily. all that sort of stuff. So I feel like that provides insight into a character that isn't just like rubber stamp. Oh, they always were the same way. Right. And I really enjoy the idea that just like real people, characters during the course of their lifetime are different people.
Right. Yeah.
And we talked about this on Disorganized Play too, that the location is a character. The location has a lifespan. And so we see it being built and what's going on, who's involved with it being built. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Right. Speaking of kicking things off next session, so let's check in quickly with Plot Radar. We have 2 sessions left. Oh, look at this! Oh, we've got a side-by-side comparison. Which that's from 2 weeks ago, right?
Right there is your.
Is from what date? I can't see what date.
Oh, I don't know.
It's the blue one though.
Yes,
or is it green?
It's blue.
Yeah. So green was last week. Green. So this is just going to give you a comparison of how Plot Radar changes and evolves, right? For anyone who's not familiar, Plot Radar is my way of looking at the various story elements that I've got in play and then assigning them kind of like a space inside my head in terms of, is it many sessions away or is it something I have to address next session? Is it something that the players really want to like have wrapped up but I haven't made definitive plans for? That's dangling, or is it something that I've introduced and they've forgotten about it and now that's dropped, right? Or that's dormant. So if we look, this is the one on top, the one over here, look at that, is from 2 weeks ago. And so we have a lot of things on our Plot Radar. Yes, Dr. Faust Painting Clinic, we had a one-off session that I volunteered Havana Mahoney to GM, and she did a game based on Mamma Mia, which turned out to be a dream, right? That was a special kind of like one-off session. So I was thinking about reincorporating that into the actual canon of the D&D game. Mm-hmm. So if we look at this, we have a lot of stuff that's kind of out on the right-hand side of the horizon, the time horizon, right? The Blood, Shadow of Lurg, take the books, back to the Tower of the Heavens, deal with Garakas and the Black Cube, etc. Right? We have a bunch of stuff that's dangling, things that need to be addressed in terms of motivations or goals that each of the players had for their characters. So Alton wanted to learn some stuff about his bow. Lowstorm wanted to get a ferry. Strum wanted to learn how to fly. They wanted to visit the spider haunt, that sort of stuff. So that's all there. And then the things that we were immediately dealing with 2 weeks ago was getting into Thurno Pass and dealing with the Darrow, finding the star. Those were the main things that were happening in that session. Now here we are 2 weeks later. If we look down here, can you point the right way? Can you point? Wow, you're really good at this. We have a bunch of stuff over here in our closed and retired column, right? So they've taken care of all of that stuff. They've done Thurno Pass and the Dwarves. They've traveled to the Iron Keep. They delivered the star. They got the books. Lowstorm got a ferry. Strum gained the capability to fly. Alton had a duel with Crate and Sark. Those are all things that are now, as far as I'm concerned, story elements that need to like just get out of the way. So Nullzone, I really do like it. It doesn't take long to fill one of these things out, and you don't have to be particularly exact about where it goes in this timeline. If you know, like, you can just say, "Oh, my players think that the bartender at the local inn is a double agent for the Zentarum." And you can just write that down in the dangling column and say, I have no idea what's actually going to happen. Right? But there's something's going on with the Zents, right? And the Zent and the bartender. And it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be what they think it is. But it's something that they have an awareness of, and you can just put it in there. And then if you have an idea as you're looking across the various story elements that you have in play, you can go, oh, I know, somebody can be caught like sending a message to the bartender at the inn. You know, then it starts to move into a particular column or whatever. The other thing that I will recommend is I have this section down at the bottom that I very rarely use, but it's just called Sparks, and that's for anytime I have a piece of inspiration that I don't know what to attach it to I can just write it down in sparks, and I don't know whether it doesn't have to be anything that the players are even aware of. Like I wrote one down last week that was like, that just says, you're not gonna be able to read it. It just says gambling scene. What does that mean? I don't know, but I was thinking to myself, it would be fun if there was something in the Iron Keep where there was a regular like poker game going on, and the players could sit down and get involved in it. Now, it didn't go anywhere because we didn't have time, and I didn't want to make that into something. But it was a spark of an idea that was like, I don't know what it is, I don't know what it's attached to, but I want to write it down. So that's what I would suggest is if your players have suggestions that they get attached to, then think about dropping them into that dangling category, because that's for things that the players have a high awareness of that you don't have personal plans for. If we look at this week's list of dangling items, there's this weird clicker character who is apparently harvesting or buying the lumber from the ironwood. And I don't know, like the players are aware of it, but I don't think we're going to have time to get into it. So it's dangling. I know that if they were given the opportunity to explore, interact with this guy, they would, but I don't see that happening since, we're 2 episodes away from the finale. The other thing that I have dangling right now is the Rod of 7 Parts, and that's dangling because it has extreme high player awareness, but I don't have plans to resolve the Rod of 7 Parts in the next 2 sessions. Maybe, here's the beauty of Plot Radar, maybe as I'm planning the finale, I'll go, wouldn't it be great if Vitha and Shrouds shows up with the 5 parts of the, 6 parts of the completed staff, and is like, I'm ready now to retrieve the last, or whatever.
Right.
And that would be a great, like, bam, revenge, motivation, tie-in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, I don't have those plans. I feel like that's a much bigger storyline than just kind of a neat, I gotcha, So I put stuff like that in the dangling category. If we look at what's coming up next session, I want to put some focus on the Grand Druid's fate. Since it's been shoved to the background so much, let's kind of evolve that a little bit more, right? They are attracted to the spider haunt. I don't know if that's diminished a little bit since Amy had now, her character has that fairy character, but I still think it's a place of extreme intrigue, and if I can work it in, I want to work it in. Alton has a new sword. He also would like to learn some words of power from his bow. They just won the arrow ship from Creighton Sark, and Jorvan Ailerod was brewing some potions for Jorvan, which is a chat unlock. So that seems like a lot to kind of manage into this session, right?
Yeah.
And the important thing is that I also need to lead up to the approaching session, which is the finale. So in the approaching session, I need to deal with what is Garakas, the Black Cube, etc. They need to deliver the books in some fashion. And I think the Blood Shadow of Lurg needs to come back somehow. I haven't decided exactly how, right? And then in the distant column, which is 3 sessions or further out, I've got nothing because there are no
3 sessions.
3 sessions. There's no session 3.
Yeah.
And stuff that's in the dormant category is stuff that they've forgotten about that I'm just going to bury, that they don't necessarily. Strum's isn't something that I can just bury, but the other 3 items are. They could remember. Oh yeah, I should pull that knot, in case of emergency, break glass. So that's what I'm going to do with Plot Radar is really not only look at here's what's going on in this session of the game, but go, how do I pull these things together so they set me up for dealing with this next session? And you should always sort of be doing that anyhow. That's what this tool is for, is to enable you to see across your campaign and associate threads in ways that you didn't necessarily think of before. But it's especially important for me that this not be necessarily like a completely standalone kind of one-off bottle episode, kind of feels detached from the main plot line. I really need to build a little bit of momentum going into the finale. And I think the finale is they somehow deal with Garakas and the Black Cube, right? Which probably canonically or at least traditionally involves a combat of some kind. And so then I think to myself, what can I do this session to help set them up for the finale that's going to happen next week? So that's what I'm working on. And how can I tie those things into the Grand Druid's fate? Is that somehow tied to the Spider Haunt?
Right.
You know, it starts to be easy if you just go through the classic journalism questions of who, what, why, when, and how, and start picking things off your list and going, who? The Grand Druid. The Grand Druid is dead. Okay, it's the Grand Druid. Where? The Spider Haunt. Is the Grand Druid somehow attached to the Spider Haunt? Okay, great. You start putting those two things together, and then you go, why would the Spider Haunt have anything to do with Garakas and the Black Cube? You know. So that's Plot Radar. That's where we're at. I feel like, you know, those pictures give you an idea of how it evolves and shifts over the course of even just 2 weeks, right? Another way to do this, rather than just keep printing this off over and over again, although I do like having the older ones to just refer to, you could put them on Post-it notes and then move them around from column to column and just take a snapshot at the end of the week. If you ever search Kanban board, Kanban, you'll see something very similar to this, which was entirely like coincidental that they turned out to be similar, but and it isn't exactly appropriate, but or structured in the same way, right? Kanban is more about to-do items, and this has a much more chronological kind of look to it.
Do you need to be a Scrum Master to be able to do
Scrum Master?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be a Scrum Master. Yeah, you do definitely have to. Yeah, you need to do Six Sigma. You need to be a Six Sigma black belt. What else am I? What other? Somebody. Buzzwords, guys. Buzzwords. All right. Next up, we are going to talk about the Art and Arcana book, right?
Yeah,
so, let's flip it over here. So, like I said, I got a preview of this thing. What's something for scale here? Let me just give you.
Sir Forescale.
Other than my hands, which are of course beautiful and enormous. I can just keep looking up here, right? But I want this to live over here. All right, so this is the Art and Arcana book. It is Michael Whitwer, Kyle Newman, John Peterson, and Sam Whitwer put this together, and it is basically a history of Dungeons and Dragons art, and also a history of the company, kind of the game put together, right? Not necessarily the company, because it goes back to TSR and whatnot. So. Thank you, Richard McSundy. I appreciate your compliments of my hands. I did a commercial. I did sort of a, yeah, that's a good side by side. Very good. Yeah. So this is your PHB. I had to do a little bit of hand modeling for a spot that I was in, and they were like, "Oh wow, you're really good at like hitting your marks with your hands," and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw this. I saw this at the Stream of Many Eyes, like I said earlier, and I was like, "This is a must-buy." They have an alternative cover. I don't remember how much that version is. It was a much more significant investment than I can fit in my budget right now, which is fine. Like, I want you all to keep in mind that as much as we love to show these goodies off, all you really need to be a role player is a pencil, a piece of paper, and some dice, right?
Yeah.
Like, and not even necessarily dice, but just some imagination. So, as much as I like to get fetishistic about my gaming stuff, it's easy to fall into that trap. Don't feel bad if you can't get it. It's like, I've passed on this. I've passed on stuff where I was like,
not necessarily. Yeah.
not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, the big one was really impressive. But yeah, this came out today. I pre-ordered it after I saw it at the Stream of Many Eyes, and I really am like, it's just a premium production for me as an old school. So I don't know how well you can necessarily see that this is the Village of Hamlet, right? Like, in very subtle, very nicely well done it's just the inside cover, right? Is just very subtle. It's black, it's matte with a little ink on it. That's the village of Hamlet. It's such a beautiful touch. Like so much thought and history went into this thing that it really is for me a way to distill and purify that kind of nostalgic feeling that takes me back to my days of playing AD&D. In fact, I was talking to Dom about the Player's Handbook cover that I tweeted out earlier to announce the show, and there's a lot of beautiful full color art in here, right? Some great scans and pictures of stuff. But I looked at that PHP cover and I'm like, I can't tell you how many hours I just sat and stared at the cover of that PHP and thought about like what was going on in that picture and whatnot. It's really amazing. So it's not just necessarily an art book of, I will say, like, I don't find that pure art books, I like them, but I don't often spend a lot of time flipping through them, like looking at them and really like enjoying them on a level that's more than just like, oh, that looks really great. Oh yeah, that's awesome. This also has enough history to it that it really feels like a resource to get your mind around like the roots of the game, how it evolves, you know, where maybe you came in terms of your particular like intersection with the hobby. And it covers all the way from, you know, white box first edition, original edition stuff to 5th edition, you know, fairly contemporary stuff. So it really is a book where if you're interested in D&D or if you're interested in the history of TTRPGs, it's got several places throughout the book where it does these comparisons. So it shows you how the Purple Worm, the artwork for it has changed throughout the various editions. And it's fun to see these iconic monsters kind of go through their paces and see their various iterations. Sometimes there's something where it's like, is this what I think of? Is because that's what was in the monster manual?
Right.
Or is it now like, are the later editions more evocative for me? Like what is it? It's got I think the fancy edition comes with its own set of Tomb of Horrors handouts, right?
Oh, okay.
So I love, for me, this is one of the things that makes this different than, say, like, I've got like the Art of Mad Max book at home, but I've seen the movie, so I'm like, well, do I really need to flip through and look at the stills? I mean, maybe a little bit, but I don't need to. It's this sort of behind the scenes stuff that not only gives me insight into like what the background of the game was, but also takes me back to the days when these were the dice or this was the character sheet or what have you, right? All of like, there's extra touches here that they went and did. They've got the historians on board who know what this stuff is about and are able to sprinkle it in between these entries that illuminate and evoke the gaming experience at that time. Wow, some old school art there. So it's I don't want to flip through the whole thing because I really think you should sit down and just like enjoy it for what it is. It does cover some of the more modern and weird stuff, so not just the old school things, but it also goes into some of the D&D video games and whatnot. The Infinity Engine, right? Baldur's Gate, that sort of stuff. So it has history there that it goes beyond just the game. It's really about Dungeons and Dragons as a broader kind of cultural phenomenon, and not. There's plenty of there about the game, but it's not limited in that respect. So, so this is the book. It's $50 straight up retail. It's meaty, and you know, for me, it's just amazing to like flip through it and go, oh. Oh yeah, I remember. I remember. So that's the book. It's in your FLGS today. I don't know if it's in Barnes & Nobles today as well, the limited edition, but I think I don't know if it's going to go out on Amazon. That's your decision whether you decide to go and purchase it on Amazon or not. I definitely wanted to go and support my local game store, so I did that.
Yep.
And for $50, I think it is a terrific value in terms of the research that's been done, the materials that have been gathered, and then the quality and variety of the scans and the photography and the artwork and whatnot. It is thorough.
It's very thorough, very high quality images in here. I mean, if you were hoping to get a better glimpse at, you know, the cover of the first ed DMG or something like that, like you can see brush strokes and stuff in some of these pictures, so it's pretty cool. And at $50 for twice the size of a PHB, you know, it's a really good price. And
I feel like for a coffee table book, like that's kind of the going rate for a coffee table book, and this is solidly like I would put this
near a coffee table.
I would just put this nearby so that I could open it up and flip through it, kind of like when I'm in the mood, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
It reminds me of that 30 years of D&D book that they put out.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. Yeah. And the cover, I hope you can tell from the photos, it has some nice kind of like gold kind of spot varnish on it, so that really pops. It really looks beautiful. So, all right, we have a few. We have some Kickstarter stuff that I want to cover because there's a lot going on in the world of Kickstarter right now, and and how it relates to tabletop RPGs. So there's a few things that I'd like to highlight in terms of Kickstarters that are either launching, ongoing, or wrapping up. Right. So in the ongoing category, let's start there. Epic D20 coins. I don't have one with me tonight or right now.
Basically, big, giant versions of these.
They're like poker chip-sized versions of those coins. That's being put out by our friends at Campaign Coins. That's still going. They're still unlocking stretch goals. Go get in on that. I'm really
worth it.
I've got a sample of like 5 or 6, and they're spectacular. So check that out. Tales of the Margrave is the newest book from Kobold Press, and I think there's like 2 days left on it, maybe 3 days left on it. It's interesting to me. I wish that this book had come out, I don't know, 6 months ago, because it feels like I could have taken the Ironwood setting that I developed for the Ironkeep Chronicles for this season and pulled a lot of material from this Tales of the Margrave book, which is basically like forest adventures with weird druids and all kinds of stuff. So that's Kobold Press. I love their stuff. I've been using the Creature Codex, and I think that if you're looking for third-party 5e stuff, that is definitely like rock solid, like easy recommend. So that's happening. Monty Cook Games, Monty Cook and his company have relaunched the Invisible Sun. Apparently, they're all out of Invisible Sun.
Oh.
it went to backers and it went to pre-order, and all the pre-orders got sucked up, and they have none left. So they're doing a kind of from what I understand, I haven't seen the actual campaign go out yet, but they're doing like a mini Kickstarter to get some, so that people who want a copy of Invisible Sun can get one. I'm not clear exactly like where it's going to land in terms of, the Invisible Sun game itself is this super premium, comes in this giant cube, premium components and whatnot. I think they're going to do that, but I wonder if there's going to be some like lower level stretch goals if you're not invested into the $300 level that you can get in for at a lower price point. I don't know. I'm curious. So keep an eye out. That's supposed to go out today. I didn't see it, but I've been busy today. So that's happening. And then let's see. So something that did just launch this very morning, our friend Rodney Thompson, who came on the show a couple times here and ran Dusk City Outlaws, and I've also run Dusk City Outlaws, which is his urban fantasy heist game, which I really enjoy. I think is a lot of fun. He just launched Spectaculars, which is a superhero game that he has created, where over the course of basically 4 or 5 sessions, you play an entire kind of like comic book campaign with your heroes. And I really, I've backed it already. I think the interesting hook here is that it comes with basically a set of custom game pads that have the plot elements of, say, a cosmic campaign or Tales of the Supernatural style campaign where you fight eldritch horrors, or like Street Vigilantes style campaign. So you can pick kind of like what flavor of superheroes game that your group wants to play, and then you develop kind of who the bad guys are together and whatnot. But it gives you a framework for telling that story over the course of like 4 sessions or so, 4 or 5 sessions. And to me, that kind of modular, kind of not fill in the blank, but like plug and play kind of capability is a really innovative idea. And I'm really curious to see more about like what it's like and how it works. But I love this idea just because I myself am that very kind of like, let's remix this, let's hack this, let's, you know, the players have come up with something interesting, let's plug it in someplace. And rather than writing NPCs out of the system, it leaves blanks for you to plug those things into the plot framework.
The thing that I like about it is that he's brought back what I liked about Dusk City Outlaws, which was the sort of hybridization of RPG and board game.
Yeah.
There's not a board, you know, per se, because it's an RPG, but there's a lot of elements, the coins, the cards, the
dice,
the dice and the pads and everything like that. Thanks, DJ Regular. That are carried over into Spectaculars. So if you back at like the $65 level, you get the whole box set that comes with all of that stuff. There's also PDF copies that you can get at lower
for
levels.
$20. You can just get the digital files and away you go. And he does, you know, his systems, as far as I can tell, like he is using similar kind of like challenge dice and whatnot. And so you'd have to kind of modify, you know, a set of D8s and a set of D10s if you wanted to play it, you know, on your own, or maybe plug them in, you know, code them into your dice app or whatever. That's fine if you want to go that route. But I like having custom dice. And he did such a great job with Dusk City Outlaws. Can you pull it off the shelf? We've shown it before. I just want to remind people, so let's flip over to the table cam. So this is Dusk City Outlaws. This is the previous game that he put out. And when you open it up, it has the rule book. Sure, that's great. And it has some tokens for it. It has the judge's rule book that also has some scenarios. It has a GM screen. But kind of like, and then these are, you know, these are rules reference pads and the game books and whatnot. But it also has these wonderful, oh boy, am I going to open this up right? No, I'm not. Okay. So this is, so this over here is the judge's tray, I think. I can't remember. One side is really designed. Yeah, this is the judge's side. It's a lot of light bounce there. This side is the judge's side, and you can just take this tray out and have all of your judging stuff ready for you. You have dice, you have your heat tokens, all of that. And then on this side over here is your player stuff. So you have your character types, some other rules, paraphernalia. And then in here are your various dice and whatnot, and that's the player's tray. So it's some very well thought out, well designed packaging. So unlike, I would say, like most RPGs, which is you get a book and who cares, he's really thought this out as a complete experience, right? And I expect that Spectaculars will have that same thoughtful approach to, let's make this more of a board game experience and less of a stand around while one person hogs the book and tries to dryly explain all the rules type of experience. So, you know, that's just an example of what he did with his last game. I think I have similar high hopes for Spectaculars, and I'm curious to see what he does with the superhero genre. It's always kind of, I don't know. I like superhero stuff when things go wrong, but that's me. Yeah. So that's Spectaculars. DJ Regulars popped a couple of the links into the chat. Go check it out if you are interested in that. So that's that. You wanted to talk briefly about Atmar's Cardography.
Yeah,
yes?
Atmar's Cardography, I believe, has just a couple more days left in their campaign.
Is it still rolling?
I thought maybe I might be wrong.
I think it's over.
Is it over?
I'm pretty sure you can pre-order. I think you can
you might
add
be able
on.
You might be able to do.
You can still get in
stuff,
at
though.
like the level that the Kickstarter was, because
Yeah.
I think the backer kit is launched. But I'm pretty sure that the KS itself is over.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was successful, but yeah, that one looks really cool, and it was Norse Foundry and our friend Brian Collin who made our little Groblin that we have that you can never see because it's above the shield, but I won't bring it down because
it's fragile.
It's fragile, but really cool system. Just basically a deck of cards. That's an entire dungeon crawl that includes. It's similar, you know, in a way that it's just a prepackaged little adventure. But you just kind of bring out cards and you flip over the cards, and each one has a little trail, little map for you to follow, and kind of what you find in that section of the dungeon and stuff like that. So you could use it for anything really, or you could use the deck as your own adventure, or you could put it into any other kind of adventure. So
that's one of the, I like it has dual purposes, right? So one is you could just use it as dungeon cards, dungeon tile type of thing, right? And just lay out like a dungeon and populate it yourself however you want. But I also like the idea that you can take it and lay it out as an adventure and then edit out whatever, you know, you don't like of that particular. Oh, I don't think this encounter is interesting. I'm just going to make this a little bit shorter and take those things out and lay them out, right? So that's
and there's a lot of different there's many different dungeon crawls, but they also have like monster cards and stuff like that for unique monsters that he's created and stuff. So
and
it's a fun thing.
It's written up in both 5e and Fate if you want to play it in Fate. So I know that they were doing a special Norse Foundry custom Fate die for the KS. So
and then you had something else, I think.
Yeah. So the other thing that I want to show you is that I recently backed these dungeon challenge cards. So it's not, you know, let's use our handy dandy, I don't know, pen here, I guess, for reference. It's not a particularly big package. It's by Philip J. Reed. It was a Kickstarter that, I want to say it came out a month ago, and then he had the cards printed, and away we go. Now, these, to me, are interesting. It was a fairly inexpensive KS. It delivered right away. A couple things are interesting. One is the idea is if you're stuck for an adventure idea, you draw a card from the deck, and then each time that the party succeeds at a task, you advance to another, you advance down the track until the party has succeeded and they achieve an award, right? But there's a couple things. One is these cards are hexagonal, which I thought was novel. I like that idea. And the other idea, if you're just looking for some inspiration, you flip them over. And you start at the top here. I don't know if that's bouncing in the light. No, not really. You start at the top here, and then you work your way down, right? So in this particular card, the dungeon challenge is stopping evil. Place a token on the first hex, and then follow the instructions to the right of the hex. A magical pool deep within the dungeon is in danger of being corrupted by evil. You must stop a cult from poisoning the pool. After 1d6 rooms, advance the token, right? So a couple things, and then the next one is 2d6 cultists stand between you and the room where the pool is being fouled. Kill them and advance the token. And then finally, stop 1d6 cultists in 6 turns before they finish dumping poison and destroy the pool. So the cool thing about this in my mind is, for one thing, it's system neutral. It doesn't provide stats. It just sort of generally says, here's a challenge, kind of like a very simplistic plot thread to follow, and it goes from lowest to highest. And when you're done, they earn the reward. So it's kind of a fun little adventure idea generator, right? Just a very simple dungeon crawl kind of thing. And I like the fact that it's system agnostic. I like the idea that these are hexagonal cards because I think that's novel. The production on them is very nice, I thought. Philip J. Reed works for Steve Jackson Games, and so used some of his industry connections to get a nice, there we go, nice premium quality on the cards. I want to say there's like 36 of them. That's the whole deck. It'll be interesting to try and shuffle hexagonal cards, but how often are you going to use them? Like every session? I doubt it, right? And so I just thought it was a neat idea for whatever it was, $6. I backed it, and I opened them for the first time today, and I like this idea. I also like the idea of a dungeon challenge that is for the players.
Right.
So one of the things that I'm thinking of for my Gamehole Con game is having like the players at one. Don't quote me on the price. I don't know. Go look at the price. But it was, not more than, I want to say like $10 or something like that. It was fairly inexpensive. I am pretty sure that he's going to do another round of these. It was sort of like an experimental, like, is there even like interest in this kind of space? So I think he's going to do another round of these that's a little more involved and probably a little bit more expensive, but they're a great little idea generator for what they are.
Yeah, I like these types of ideas, and this falls in with what we were talking about with Spectaculars and Dusk of the Outlaws and Atmar's Cartography and these, and that it's some of them are system agnostic, some of them aren't, but the nice thing is that it paves the way for people who want to GM or want to play RPGs, but are like, I don't know if I can get into how to build all of that in my head and stuff, and it helps get people out of that, and then just, okay, you're just going to start, and this is how it's going to start functioning.
Well, and you don't have to use them in the game, right? Like you could use them while you're prepping and go, okay, so this game is the challenge here is for the glory. Let's see. The dungeon is home to twisted, misshapen once-men who are transformed by evil magic. Roll 2d6 in each room. On a result of 9+, advance the token. So you can kind of play the mini game along with it, or you can just use it step by step to like help you design an escalating dungeon challenge. Right. And if you don't have an idea, like you just follow the 3 steps and go, okay, so there's going to be these kind of rooms, and then this happens and this happens. Yeah. And I think it's actually an interesting, like you say, an interesting tool for beginning DMs who want to start designing their own stuff, to not get lost in the corn maze of like, well, who's related to who, and why does this monster live here, and what's my plot, and how convoluted does it have to be? And the truth is, like, here, it's this convoluted. Yeah, that's it. Start here, take this, make it your own, and that's the fundamentals of DMing, right? Is you're never following a book, with the exception of playing some of the Dragonlance modules. But like when you're DMing, you're never going to be able to exactly follow a predetermined storyline. So here, like Spectaculars, here's the framework. Now flesh it out. Right. Yep. I like the idea of flipping this thing on its head, and rather it being a DM dungeon challenge, having it be, or creating a series of challenges for players, right? So it would be something like, whenever, when 4 different players have helped 4 different characters do X, Y, or Z, like they've aided somebody, you can flip this over and earn like the cooperative trophy, and that grants you a reroll token that anybody in the group can use. Right. Like unlocking some of the things that we have as chat unlockables, which are obviously like driven so that we can pay the lighting bill, electric bill. You could incorporate those things into your game, but rather than having be donations, they could be driven by player activity challenges. And I think you could make them either overt, put them on the table. Hey guys, as soon as everybody has helped somebody else in some sort of skill challenge, or accomplish some sort of skill check, you will earn a reroll token. Ding. Or you could make them secret player challenges and just track on a little piece of paper like, oh, okay, so this person has done more than 2 sentences of role playing. Once we get, not necessarily, you don't have to do it like everybody at the table has to role play, but you can say, once we've had a scene that goes 10 minutes, ding, congratulations, you've done role playing, the table gets rewarded. And you don't have to make it like, okay, you've done the best job, so you're getting this. You can make it, the table gets the benefit because something at the table has happened. So it's just a way to, like, I really love that idea. I may incorporate this at Gamehole Con as like, here's a series of things that if you do this, you will get some mechanical advantages out of it.
Yeah.
So like do a player challenge. Like I love the idea of a DM challenge, and whether I pull this into my game wholesale and run it every time, I don't think so. But it provides great inspiration when I'm sitting around trying to like come up with a one shot. But it's also inspired me to think about like, what's the flip side of this thing?
Right.
So that's a tour of all the Kickstarter stuff that I've brought in today and stuff that's going on. I encourage you to go check it all out. There's a lot of stuff going on in the space, so enjoy what you can.
Yeah.
I'm excited about tomorrow night's game. I think there will be some challenges with tomorrow night's game because Amy is going to be out, and it's very likely that Kyle has a conflict and won't be able to make it. So we're probably going to have at least one guest in tomorrow night's game, and that's kind of a stitch in the...
One of those guests will be Ashlyn Rose.
Oh, Ashlyn Rose is coming for sure. Okay, terrific.
So, Ashlyn is on the Broken Pact, and so she'll be joining us and filling in for Amy as a yet to be determined role. So we'll chat about that. But so
I think that's that for me as the DM, that's part of the challenge is like figuring out a way to take those characters and put them on the sideline without like making them the focus of the adventure or making it seem super weird. I have some ideas for how that can happen, but I think I'm great. I'm glad that we can have somebody like Ashlyn come in and guest.
Yeah.
If you're not watching The Broken Pact, you should check it out. If you're into D&D and you're into Magic the Gathering, those two things come together perfectly.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of what's on the channel, this has been Disorganized Play. Tonight, in 3 short hours, less than, Havana Mahoney comes back to DM the final installment of the Pugmire game, which we talked about earlier, but it's worth reiterating. It's a final chance to get in on the giveaway that we're giving. Did you want to show those in the table cam, the stuff that we're giving away? You've seen it.
Everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
These are only a couple of the things, but there's the core rulebook and the DM screen. There's also a set of player aid cards, which are really cool.
Oh, you can just hear the newness just
you really
crackling off of. It's a really beautiful book, like all the way through, right?
Yeah,
like,
Onyx Path did a really good job with it.
Terrific production value.
And the DM screen, which has a bunch of info and also more of that great art on the front. A set of player aid cards and a set of dice.
That's a lot to give away, Dom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a whole starter kit, basically.
Today's your last chance to get in on it, so make that happen.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, is this correct? Tomorrow at 4 o'clock?
Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Tyler Rhodes is hosting Starfinder Wednesdays for Paizo. So he'll be doing it here. And our guest is going to be Patrick from Cosmic Crit, which is also a Starfinder podcast. and show, and they're going to be talking shop, talking about Starfinder. So that will be on twitch.tv/officialpaizo. So go ahead and tune that in. We'll also be hosting it here. So we hope that some of you can check it out. So that's 4 to 5 p.m. on Official Paizo. And then tomorrow night...
No couples therapy tomorrow.
No couples therapy because we got Starfinder Wednesdays.
All right. Yeah. Cool.
Then tomorrow night at 8 o'clock... I don't know what's. Is there something?
I don't know what's going on either, to be honest. We just talked about it for an hour, and I still don't know.
No, of course, it's the Iron Keep Chronicles with your host, DJ... the
Dumbass.
Canadians GM.
Canada's
GM. Tom, the Dungeon Bastard Lommel.
Yes.
And I hope you can tune in. It's our penultimate episode. Next week is the finale of this When a Star Falls campaign. So I hope you guys can tune in and catch it and see Ashlyn at least and Eric and Havana. It's going to be great, and maybe Kyle. We'll see, and or maybe another guest. Who knows? Tune
in tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a great place to pick up where they just gave away the Rod of 7 Parts, and I think things are gonna get worse from there. So that's a pretty bad place to start. That's tomorrow night at 8. Friday at 8 is another installment of Wild Cards with DJ Jordan Caves Callerman. So tune in and watch him, work his wily Savage Worlds magic, which is another Kickstarter that's going on.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. The Savage Worlds Adventurers Edition is on right now, and it's kicking butt. Lots of stretch goals are being unlocked, new settings, new stuff. Plus, they just unlocked a 3-episode mini campaign of East Texas University Undeclared, which will be running right here with the Wild Cards cast. So I hope you guys, if you're not backing that campaign, please do. We love Savage Worlds here. It's a super fun, streamlined system, real easy to get into, and it's super cool. And they're honestly, their rewards are really well delineated, real easy to get into because they have PDFs and they have books. It's just hardcover books, no paperbacks anymore. That's what they decided to do. But
also, John Kovalik recently launched the Tao of Igor, which is a Dork Tower collection. If you're not familiar with Dork Tower, it's his D&D cartoon. And he may or may not have something to announce soon, which might be relevant to our viewers' interests. And that's all that is going to be said about that. So go back the Tao of Igor if you're interested in getting some good D&D comics. So that's that. Saturday, this weekend is TwitchCon.
So our Broken Pact is pushed a little bit. It will start at 4 o'clock, and it's only a 2-hour episode, so from 4 to 6. It'll be live from TwitchCon at the D&D stage at TwitchCon in San Jose. So if you're in San Jose or the Bay Area and you're going to TwitchCon, come say hello. Meet the Broken Pact cast. We will be there. I will be there Saturday and Sunday, so come and say hello. We might be doing some more things there, some other games. Still working that out, but definitely the Broken Pact. And Ashlyn, who will be a guest tomorrow, will be doing a Ravnica panel at around 3:15 or so, or 3 o'clock, something like that. Also live on twitch.tv/DND, but also you can come and see it live. So hope to see you then.
That's all we got today. Thank you so much for sticking to us. We did some D&D talk and a little preview of various items on offer here. So I hope it was all informative to you. Like I said, you're by no means obligated to feel like you need to indulge in any of this stuff. This is all stuff that just, as nerds, piques our interest, captures our attention, kind of gets us excited and thinking about gaming. And we happen to be in a unique position to sort of be at the nexus of that stuff.
I like to show this stuff off because there are a lot of people who are like, I don't get into this game because of this reason, or this game because of this reason. And it's real important for me and for Saving Throw, I think, to show off that there's a bunch of different styles of games, and no game is the end all be all of RPGing. There's a type for everyone, and so we like to show a breadth of games. That's why we play a breadth of games on Saving Throw. So, of course you don't have to purchase all of these things. That doesn't do anything for us if you do. But it there's a lot of things out there for all types of players. So
I don't think it's ever bad advice to tell somebody, just go play more RPGs, go play more different RPGs. I feel like it's really enriched my personal gaming experience to have branched out and played a bunch of different things. Yes, I come from an old school AD&D background. That's where I cut my teeth, and it will always hold a special place in my heart because of that. But also, I went and played Night Witches, 2 weeks ago at Big Bad Con, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game set in World War II, where you're Russian women pilots and has nothing to do with fantasy, whatever. And it was fantastic, and it was a great experience, and I really, it was interesting. It piqued me, okay, well, where do I want to run this game? Yeah, I want to run this game. Yeah. Why? Totally different experience. So play more games.
Yep.
Thank you so much to all of our mods who help keep the channel safe, friendly, and accessible to everyone who comes and visits our fine channel. Your hard work at volunteering is duly appreciated. So thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. We're really, your sharing of our show on social media is the main way that we attract new viewers. So we appreciate all of your hard work in terms of getting out the word about our show. If you enjoy the show, please let people know. Yeah. If you would like to continue the conversation, you can join us over on Discord. I try and check in, once or twice a week and see what's popping over there. We have one specifically here for Disorganized Play. So if you have an RPG question that you don't know how to deal with, you can do that. Is there an update on the Luigi emote?
There's a little.
It's working. We're working on it.
We're working on it.
And then there's also a Discord channel for the Iron Keep Chronicles. So if you want to talk about just kind of the game in a less spoilery way, you're welcome to do that. And yes, DJ Regular is the clip master extraordinaire.
Yeah.
So you can either follow his Tumblr or head over to the Discord channel and see the immense number of GIFs and clips that he has managed to pull together.
Yeah, DJ does amazing work collecting all of those clips for you to participate in and watch.
Share and enjoy.
So thank you.
Sometimes when it's Thursday morning, I just go and look through the clips and go, okay, well, those were the highlights.
That was,
yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you will tune in tomorrow night. I hope you will tune in 2.5 hours for Pugmire. Until then, let's dungeon! Wow, you did a bad job. I'm not backing your... Can we get a Kickstarter for Dom to learn how to click better?